Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Well, my trip has come to a close. It was an epic experience. And I'm at the BC Ferries port in Victoria here. It's the Schwartz port going to Vancouver. And I'm just thinking to myself how much of a clusterfuck it would be in a SHTF scenario to get the fuck off this island. It's a great island, don't get me wrong, and for the bushmasters out there, like my buddy Tyler, who I went on this trip with, who did a little cameo in another video of mine. I have no idea who this woman is in front of me here, just so you know. But I really wonder what it's going to look like, especially considering this whole island is on a pretty wicked fault line that many scientists are predicting is going to blow, and it's going to blow badly on an epic scale. It's been a very silent fault line for the most part, the Juan de Fuca fault line, but I guess scientists believe that that's all the more reason why it's going to, at some point, become active. And when it does, they're predicting it's going to become very active. Anyways, so there's a few ways off this island. I believe there's three ferry ports off the island. Or you could take a boat. You could take your own boat. And I don't know how much petrol it will take to get to, the mainland Canada, which would be Vancouver for most people as a docking point. I don't know how long that would take on a boat, depending on what kind of boat you had and how much fuel you had. But I just know that this right here, if people were really trying to evacuate this island, wow, and don't get me wrong, I mean, Vancouver Island is huge. I think it's actually bigger than, it's around the size of Japan, as far as I know. So, maybe a lot of people wouldn't necessarily need to flee the island, but these ferry ports are really the only way off of this place. And personally, that makes me a bit nervous. My bushmaster friend Tyler, he'll do fine in the bush, I know that. But, I just really worry about places like this where the only access is ferry. I mean, there's about 8 lanes here, and this is just one ferry port. There's several other ports within this whole network here. As you can see, I'm not sure if you can see there the ferry in the distance. Sorry, my phone is not very good. I'm going to be getting on that soon. Start the loading process. And I could just see this going really well or really bad. This is one of those situations that you'd see in a movie where, there was a traffic jam and shit hit the fan and people started rushing the gates to get trampled just to get on the ferry. I could see that happening. It will be unfortunate, so I would advise anybody on Vancouver Island, if you ever did, that's something just to keep in mind. And I'm sure, people who live here and who are cognizant of these things, and they are very tsunami cognizant here in spite of the apparent lack of any tsunami activity. There's tsunami signs everywhere, especially on the West Coast Trail. There were tsunami signs everywhere. They even give you a orientation before you start the trail on what to do. And the capacity of the ferries, I mean, there just simply isn't enough ferries, and they're slow. I think it takes 2 hours to get from here to the mainland. So it would be a definite battle and people would be waiting. And I'm not even sure, and like these ferries are at sea level. So, that says it all right there. This whole thing would be washed away. and people would be stranded on this island essentially. It would be ironic if something like that happened while I shot this video, and honestly, I would be a liar if I said I wasn't at all concerned about that. But of course, that's significantly rare, seeing as it hasn't happened really ever in a long time that something like that magnitude has happened. But something to consider: airports, ferry ports, any sort of transportation avenue is going to be intensely congested. And what would you do in a situation like this where, you know, people were getting very anxious and you were told that the last ferry was leaving and now you got 10 cars behind you? You know, what do? Do you try to, you know, forcefully push your way out? Do you get out of your car and say fuck it and walk, or do you just wait, or do you scramble to higher ground if the tsunami is coming? I just think it's going to be a very interesting scenario if and when it all does go down. And looks like we might be boarding at some point here, unless she's just got her lights on. Yeah, scary thought, man. And Vancouver Island is one of those islands where there's only a few main roads, and if those main roads are clogged, you know, all hell's gonna break loose. So be very aware of that. Those of you Vancouver or Victoriaites and Nanaimoites. It was a great trip though, man. I really this island is phenomenal. It's if you're gonna visit a place in Canada, I would say visit this island, and you'll pretty much get a taste of everything. Either here or the Rocky Mountains, you'll get a taste of everything that Canada has to offer. And the best part of this island is that there's no bugs. No frickin' bugs. From Saskatchewan, you know, when you walk out the door, there's a welcoming committee of hundreds of mosquitoes, and it's just amazing to the force of habit of me when I get outside swatting things, just to have perfect weather. And the winters here are mild, even though it does rain sideways, as I'm told. But the climate here is fantastic. So really a great place to consider visiting. And looks like we might be boarding here. So I'm going to take you through this whole porting process, just so you can perhaps imagine how something of this nature might play out. I can only imagine the announcer saying, "We are at full capacity. All passengers, please wait for the next ferry," while the tsunami horde's being blown in the background. That could be, there might be a mad dash for that thing over there too. Not sure if you can see that. That's an ATM right there. Can't really see it because my phone doesn't allow for low light too well. But I think first there'd be a mad dash for that. The smart people would probably make a mad dash for that cafe. You know, grab what they could, depending on the severity of the situation. But just considering that how landlocked this place is, and how hard it would be to bring in supplies when you can only bring them in by boat or plane, the recovery and rescue efforts here would be very slow going, and you couldn't really expect a whole hell of a lot. And I mean, you can't really blame, you know, it's just the way the thing has been set up because of the intense terrain of the Vancouver Island with all the hills and mountains and rock and, you know, just the crazy topography, they've had to really make few roads in and out. That's what I gather from it. And again, it's all at sea level, so, or most of the main roads are close to sea level. Some of the I mean, when you get further into the island and you start driving around a bit, there's pretty drastic elevation changes. You know, you definitely would be safe in many parts of the island from elevational changes. There are even white-cap mountains, you know, which I'm sure are peaking in at over 2,000 meters on the island. So it's not as if, you know, the island itself is at any risk of being wiped out. Although I've heard theories that you know, a big enough earthquake would actually do cataclysmic damage to the whole island. But I suppose that's straight theory. So I'm going to pause the video because I'm just rambling on here until we start boarding, and then I'll turn it back on and we can speculate and theorize some more. Alright folks, looks like we're finally boarding here. I could only imagine in the instance of some kind of pandemic when they tried to quarantine down an island like this, you know, how they might do it at these crossings, or would they shut down the ports altogether? Who knows? It's I'm sure they have contingency plans for that sort of thing. I'm sure they couldn't stop the flow of commerce altogether, especially if there was a widespread outbreak on the island. I could imagine, I don't know what would happen here. I don't know what sort of seed might amount if there was a ferry here and there were police and people in hazmat suits and you know, screening people and doing that kind of thing, guns out type style. That could be entertaining, to say the least. Looks like we're proceeding forth finally here. Put her in drive, turn the lights on. You have to pardon the shaky camera. I am trying to drive and do this at the same time here. This guy's going to direct me forward. Mr. Lightman. Okay. Here we go. Onto the big boat to allow us to flee this island. Sorry about that GPS in the way there. I didn't realize that was such a obstruction of view. Here we go now. Another Mr. Lightman doing his job. Onto the boat. Berth. This is the berth. totally looks like you could shoot a movie about this concept. Easily. Easily you could. We park soon as this car in front of me stops rolling. That's my cue to park. Get nice and close. Or imagine being stranded on one of these things. That would be something, wouldn't it? Imagine all the negative possibilities. On the bright side, the world isn't ending, and you know, things are looking up. And I get to go for a nice long boat ride. So let me know what you think about this concept of ports and boats and all that kind of chaos. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, if you found it thought-provoking. Canadian Prepper out.